now I'm happy to see on the stage Rinat Asmus, our current chairperson, and he will speak together with Jan Hegewald about the opening strategy.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Günther. Until now, I think we can really be proud, and it's impressive what we have seen from the release itself. Yeah. It's every time that really the community is focusing in November on this kind of state, and there's a lot of discussions and quality needed to bring that in. And we also see that the technical support functions have a quite huge role in this context. Thanks for that. And yeah, let's have a short look together with Jan on something that we have elaborated now for the last years. We started with that, also listening to the partners. What is needed from the opening perspective? And some years ago, we had the situation that AUTOSAR was in a lot of discussions, but rather considered to be a more closed community organization, which means for us that we had to be more conscious about the discussions we see for the future and how we can elaborate their work model to see the companies in our environment. That's why we would split that in two parts. So what was currently elaborated and how can we foster the ecosystem around that, also the SDV context in this point. And yeah, Jan, would you like to start with that first part? And also for you as project leader speaker this year, I'm very happy to have you as part of the chairperson team. And yeah, let's just go for it, right?
Of course, Rinat, thanks for this kind introduction. And of course, I'd like to talk about the opening strategy. As you already sketched, this is one of the most important projects that we're working on in the management layers of AUTOSAR. And opening strategy means so much to us. So there are different aspects that we'd like to touch throughout the presentation. And I'd like to start with one aspect that deals with the partnership of AUTOSAR. You have seen you have seen an overview over our partners that we currently have. And as of today, in the last few months, we introduced the Premium Partner Plus as a new partnership type, which allows companies that want to get into the technical steering of AUTOSAR to contribute more and to get in contact with and be part of the AUTOSAR project leader team. And this is really a good initiative and allows us to even listen more closely to those companies that already today contribute a lot to the AUTOSAR standard and would like to contribute also to the technical steering. Apart from that, one of the aspects of the opening strategy are the derived applications. AUTOSAR itself, in the first place, is an automotive standard. It has been founded as an automotive standard. It has been used now for nearly 2 decades as an automotive standard. But still, AUTOSAR is also used in other applications. And some of those you're seeing here, like in the mobility infrastructure, agricultural machinery, which is still quite close to the automotive context, as well as maritime shipping and railway applications. But then there's also applications like medical technology, household appliances, which is definitely going a step further and is still a very viable use case for AUTOSAR and a very viable derived application. So this is what we have been discussing, and what we are now laying out as well is this list of derived applications. And with this, we would like to encourage you to also think about usage of AUTOSAR in those other industries, just to make sure that this standard that we're describing here and that we're defining together with our partners is being used properly also in other ways. So this is the derived applications. The catalog is also available on our website. So in any case, you can see it there as well and get yourself familiar with it. The next step is then something that we call Vehicle API, which is a compatibility framework for in-vehicle networks to existing IoT technologies. And what you see here is a picturization of that. So what we see here is the picturization of a use case that we are thinking about. And this is just one of many use cases that can be allowed with a Vehicle API. So in that very specific case you see here, one could think about a car insurance company that would like to access data within a car and would like to then maybe allow cheaper policies to be sold to their customers, just based on the information, well, this or that customer is driving according the regulations that apply. And for this, we need to have an open API that allows companies like, for example, car insurance companies to access data within the car, to allow them to access this data via defined network protocols, but also via defined data trees. And in an ideal world, these are standardized. What this also means is that we'd like to involve not only automotive companies, which are already today possibly AUTOSAR partner, but also other companies from other industries like this car insurance company, like IT tech companies and others who might want to access data within the car. So we'd like to encourage them to work together with us on standardizing all this, but also on using it on the other hand. So this is something we're currently talking about. We're talking about this use case and others as well. And we're doing that also on the basis that we're seeing now here. So this is a sketch, a state of planning for a possible architecture. And what you can see here is a preliminary architecture that we were discussing with Covisa, so the successor of Genevieve in that case. And you see here that this preliminary architecture also involves the vehicle signal specification standard, which is being defined by Covisa. So this is our first touch point here to really see, okay, what are the technology? What's the technology to define such interfaces to the outside world, so outside the vehicle, but also then to see how can we make that work together with what we have within the vehicle? Because that's what AUTOSAR does as of today. And to really allow and to foster the collaboration on that and to allow the different parties working together, we're here thinking about an open license model, which is currently in assessment. And for code, we would like to go in the direction of MPL version 2, because that's something which is very familiar with Covisa. For specifications, we are thinking about Creative Commons BY-SA version 4.0, so an open content license in that case. And these two licenses would be applied for the usage or exploitation of the parts that we would standardize. And then, on the other hand, for contributing to all that, we are thinking about creating the contributors license agreement, and thus allowing companies and other organizations, other bodies to contribute to what we're doing here. And just to get a bit more into the details, there are two things listed here, like the external connection handler and the data mapper. This external connection handler is basically the interface to the outside world. So that's what's really seen outside the vehicle, and which handles connections with the external world based on specific protocols that encapsulate then the payload of data that shall be transported. In case of the data mapper, this performs the mapping between the API that we see on the outside world and outside the vehicle to what's inside the vehicle. This is something that AUTOSAR, so the inside world, is something that AUTOSAR does for many years right now. So service descriptions in that case, for example, services being transported over some IP protocol, or also services on the ARACOM interface in the adaptive platform. And in the end, we need to align and map those services that we have within the vehicle to those that are exposed to the outside, to allow in the end anybody who implements this interface within the vehicle to properly communicate and to offer the data that is needed on the outside world. This is the vehicle API, and this is something new. So this is something we're targeting together with Covisa right now, but we're also talking about our legacy IP that's part of the standard right now, that's released already. And we see different use cases or purposes here that which we would like to facilitate. So for example, as a first purpose here, the educational purpose is listed. This means that we would like to facilitate usage of AUTOSAR within education. And this not only in universities where we have students that are educated in software development, for example, but where AUTOSAR currently might not play the role that that we would like to see. So we want to open up possibilities for universities, but also for vocational training to use the AUTOSAR standard, both in code and specification, for better training, for better education. The next purpose here is an easier access for research projects and open source projects. And this is something which we will also see when Renat's talking about collaboration then in his part. But already here we can describe that the collaboration with open source projects and also with research projects with which are doing proof of concepts, for example, is an essential part to make AUTOSAR usable within the industry. In the end, we need to facilitate that to be able to use AUTOSAR, for example, to develop an application within an open source project, and which can then be used within the open source project, of course, or in the research project. And we could, for example, use the adaptive platform demonstrator for that. So this would be something where we would need to open up the according artifacts of our AUTOSAR work, like the adaptive platform demonstrator and the specifications also to those projects and in the collaboration with them. Last but not least, we need to make sure that AUTOSAR devices, like devices that are featuring the classic platform or the adaptive platform, are interoperable with devices that do not run on AUTOSAR basic software. And this is depicted here, where you see this vehicle bus, vehicle network running through the car and having different access points here, where different ECUs or partitions which are running on a hypervisor are attached. And those need to speak the same language. It's like in our everyday work. So I think that most of you will speak English in one or the other occasion throughout everyday work. And this is basically the same within the vehicle. We have agreed that English for us is a proper language to talk to each other. And within the vehicle, we need such languages as well. We need to talk we need to be able, for example, to talk via some IP or other protocols that AUTOSAR has defined in the last few years, which are vital to the AUTOSAR standard, but which are also vital to communicate with other parts of the whole vehicle network. And thus, we need to make those more open as well. And this is what we're looking into. And as already stated, collaboration is key in nowadays. So Now I'd like to hand over to Rina to talk a bit more about the collaboration, third-party collaboration that AUTOSAR has already established, that AUTOSAR is discussing. And so, yeah, Rina, why don't you take over and give us some insights into this topic?
So much, and you've seen we've been quite busy this year, and the good thing is that all the approaches we've seen presented by Jan were coming with a solid ground, solid investigation from the project leader team, and we will also see in future that this is the essence of AUTOSAR. In fact, we are an engineering-driven community, and this will be also the base for our collaboration model. But on the other side, management levels, also the parties we see around the AUTOSAR organizations are getting more and more important. And I'd like to share a bit of the insights we've done for, I think, 2-3 years now. And it was an investigation around 50 non-profit organizations in the standardization area. And for each of them, we did a kind of voting scheme where we said as co-partners, hey, this makes sense to attach, to collaborate, or even only observe with this organization. That made the whole activity very fruitful. And as the whole vehicle or S discussion popped up, we were well prepared, honestly, because we've sorted a number of technologies before they came on our table. What you see here as a picture is somehow the expectation that technologies are standing next to each other to integrate bigger HPCs. But there's also a life cycle we see coming from cloud natives with the DevOps cycle. And this tackles quite hardly the automotive industry, as the expectations from cloud natives are much different. That we see that in the automotive area at the moment. And this is also a culture change. So we need to talk about wording. We need to talk about the right communication. And if you look on the next slide, that's an investigation we saw in the press, that wording really makes sense. Talking about the right words that understands the whole group is the base to jump on technologies, to reuse technologies, but also to understand the business cases that are in the background of each company. And based on that, I think the wording of the SDV is quite prominent at the moment. The SDV is defined as a software-defined vehicle and is sometimes perceived as a kind of transformation. A transformation that is going beyond what automotive knows. And usually in automotive software development, we are dealing with a compute platform that has an onboard character, which is running inside the car. And then we see this cloud-native collaborations based on open source communities, but also partners that are big enough to create an own ecosystem. They are usually coming with an own methodology and own templates, own configuration files. And the benefit as well on the cloud-native side is that the numbers of engineers in the company is just very huge compared to what we have as software engineering inside of automotive. And let's build up this picture from the bottom to the top. And we see on hardware dependency on the left side and a kind of virtualization perspectives on the right side. So we have cloud on premise here in the data centers. And therefore, we need to connect that with a kind of automotive-grade software platform. This goes beyond what we know today to take care of runtime behavior, to take care of diagnostics, time synchronization, a proper Ethernet protocol or service-oriented architectures, but also functional safety or automotive cybersecurity. This will enable the edge, connect to the edge, and have also the right platform services then in place. with this purpose, we can do simulation and validation quite efficiently. And therefore, such a platform really makes sense. You see that at the moment in automated driving use cases where environments or runtime behaviors around ROS applications, but also adaptive, are standing next to each other. And I wouldn't say competing, because there are benefits using both APIs also in the development cycle. And what the OEMs are doing, in fact, they're building applications on top and even some software frameworks that make them more capable to deliver in time and have new technologies in place on the onboard side. So compute platforms are kind of, we have that in our hands from the OEM perspective and know how we can bring them to the next level. What is harder is to connect to what the methodology is doing on the cloud side. So connect to technologies around Kubernetes, to how to create digital twins, is something we need to find an answer as the whole community. And if we wrap that in a more objective view, the DevOps cycle brings the real challenge, because we're talking here about, from automotive, like 15, 20, up to 25 years cycles that are handled within the automotive car industry. And on the other side, the update cycles we are expecting from the cloud natives are within months and maybe 1 to 2 years. In the middle, there is the expectation and also the plan how we can merge these two cultures. So we can ask ourselves, are the OEMs the ones that will convert nearer to the cloud natives? Or are the cloud natives the ones that will understand automotive software even more in future? Both ways are possible, and there will be companies handling both activities. But the biggest benefit is that we find software developers on the right side here and can bring them to the idea of automotive software development. Now we will merge both two approaches. The first approach was sorting all the third-party organizations from technology perspective. And the second approach is catching the right platform and the environment we are talking about. So if anybody asks you, what is in fact the SDV? The SDV is a kind of movement to find the right approach for the cloud natives and the automotive companies to tackle the challenges of the future and deliver together. How can we support that from the open space? Let's put that to the right angle and find the 8 or 9 communities that can help us to build such an environment. I would be a bit more detailed today on the current organizations. And you know that we are in AUTOSAR quite well equipped with OEMs, and we have a broad understanding what requirements are needed for in the dependability area. Dependability is defined by functional safety, but also by automotive cybersecurity. Both ISOs are mandatory for all OEMs to deliver homologation-relevant cars. And besides that, topic like diagnostics, time synchronization, or a proper COM stack with the right runtime behavior are key. So here we have our values. Here we have our roots. And you see that we are just progressing in year by year. Next to us is ASAM. I've seen a very nice concept today, SOVD, for diagnostics that are capable to deal with service-oriented architecture based on standard state-of-the-art configuration. And I think integrate that to your platform is just a matter of time and supporting both standards. as ASAM and AUTOSAR has a long history together, not only being both in Munich, but also connecting through different standards like ODX or a measurement calibration from the past. In the future, we see also projects around OpenX, which is open scenario, open labeling, open ODD for automated driving as a very important step. That's why it wasn't ready for this release, but I hope for the next release we can find a demonstration purpose and also a nice hardware for that demonstration. Next one. With Kronos, we signed an MOU this year, a Memorandum of Understanding that connects companies mainly coming from the North American region, and they have a quite great knowledge in the area of graphic processing, but also hardware acceleration. This accomplished quite well with the HPC approach. At the moment, we are working on a concept which is called Safe GPU inside of the AUTOSAR organization to find a safe way how data can be perceived through the sensor model, but also passed through to the processing power we need in the car and further in the backends. So this kind of way we try to sort within this concept and reuse methodologies from both communities. Next community is SOFI. SOFI is a growing community at the moment, and if I would highlight them today, they are going the most vertical idea, which means they start with hardware near implementation, abstracting this to a kind of digital twin approach, and including also application layer. It means for me, they have a very good understanding what they would like to support, but also a dedicated hardware platform that is a really good, a very practical approach, and we see them as one part of our environment. The SDV is not fulfilled as long Eclipse SDV is not part of the game. This is the biggest rectangle and definitely a huge, I would say, expectation. Also, the foundation around the Eclipse SDV has a good outreach, and I think the first proposals for projects, for open source projects, give them a very good starting point. But there is a lot of space to fill here. And let's see how we can, from AUTOSAR side, also can help here with navigating through the history, but also helping to fill some gaps for Eclipse SDV in future. And the yellow part from GaiaX and Catena. This organization is driven mainly from the cloud perspective, and it is a key for data ownership. It has a big significance on higher management level, but the first projects are also created now on very practical perspectives. That means they accomplish also on the data center side a good organization for us. And last but not least, we have the cloud natives on this page, computing foundation, and topics around Kubernetes I mentioned already. And here you can see how AWS, Google, Microsoft are finding a common ground on the methodology to bring in virtualization, but also a service approach in this cloud native area. The interesting thing is that the open source community was established after the products were in place from the different vendors. So it was a bit of similarity how AUTOSAR was in fact created, because in 2003, as Günther might know, there were already some products in place for classic platform. But there was an initiative to bring that all together to one table and create one API for a common approach. And that said, we would have a look on the last but not least. Maybe you miss one of the communities. And I know it's already now a very colorful but confusing picture. I just want to say it must be confusing because we are part of the creation of this kind of SDV approach. And we are happy to have already some technology ground to start with. It is much more than only talking about the software platform. And the key that goes now horizontal between the cloud natives and the compute platform is the vehicle API. Vehicle API is a project, a standard that connects us currently with Covesa, the former Geneva organization. They did an investigation around 2-3 years around the VSS tree. That's the data tree that Jan was talking about before. And the good thing is that we can relate here to operating systems that are already on the road, which have VSS already in place. And Android systems like the VHAL are on the road with a number of cars. And it's a matter of time to extend that to other platforms. From Autosar side, we would like to be the next. That's why a collaboration with Autosar really makes sense. And we try to abstract here the data we have from some IP side, but also maybe in future from Classic to this tree. Because how you connect to this tree from the northbound, we call it, from the cloud perspective, it is up to the ones that are implementing. If you use something like GraphQL, if you just reuse an MQTT approach or just having some async API ideas around that, it's up to the implementer that doesn't see any hardware. But it must fit what is defined inside of the car. So this is the mismatch what the VSS tree solves quite efficiently. The community around Covesa and Autosar are trying to have a short split of tasks. And we are talking here about the future of the collaboration next year. We hope we can strengthen that. And that's why I'm having today 2 pins. So one is for Covesa and the other one is for Autosar. We, like both organizations, are quite for some time in the automotive industry. And I think we know how such enabling could look like. All right, I think I spent some words on the third-party organizations. Looking to the right, Günther stands beside me, just seeing that. And I would also have a next slide coming to the overall, I think, perspective of Autosar. And we did a very extensive work here from the strategy perspective in the last 1-2 years. And I would like to highlight today a special user group that is connected to our presentation. That's the user group North America. It's our afternoon session, so you must be somewhere around before noon. And I just want to tell you it was very good to meet up in September and to see the first steps again walking after the Corona pandemic. I really hope that the user group in North America can take the next step here and bring in the values, the ideas that you see in your region, and also to help to exploit Autosar in a bigger way, because the understanding of Autosar in the US or North American region, it is not easy to understand what is done in Europe. And you are the ones that can keep track on it, can spread our word, but also connect to each other. So a regional community in such a big area is for us a very strong and very important commitment. We connected all the 3 regions. We created a kind of regional spokesperson approach this year next to Günther's role. And Günther has, I think, a good understanding how technology can be rolled out within the whole international sphere. But we need to have the people present inside of user groups, inside of the ideas of the companies. The next topic I'd like to highlight is not only thinking about what the individual can do. In the US, especially open source communities or also startup activities are very common, right? And if you think of what a community can really live from, right, Günther, there's much more than only having one approach with one company. But if you can spread then technology, that's much more, isn't it?
It's really much more. And since you really create technology, and if companies are working together to develop commonly as standard, you even have a basis for future certification of solutions, and this makes life easier for all parties involved. Mm-hmm. I think that's a big advantage. So we move from a proprietary solution up to a, let's say, state of technology, and then finally to the state of art, which is then the base for the certification of future systems.
Right. I mean, that's exactly it, because if you are a startup or if you're an individual, you can just think of your ideas around your system, like the conditions, the constraints you see. But if you can spread it that somebody else can reuse it, you definitely have a review and then a possibility to have something common, right?
Surely, in most cases, you will get even an enrichment of your ideas in sharing your ideas with others and combine it with some other input from the other side. I think usually enriches what you have developed yourself, and you benefit, both sides benefit from this work together. And, you know, if we work in a larger environment with many partners, we really can together create the state of the art, which is then really the good basis for all of us. We can rely, since all the expertise contributed to this state of the art. And there is, I think...
I have also a quite good example for that. So, for example, the Summer EP protocol we were talking about, it was a major idea coming from 2 engineers. And but it's in fact, no matter what company it's coming from, the idea spread from one thesis and one person really reviewing this to all cars in our environment. And I mean, from engineering perspective, this is the holy grail of appreciation. If your technology is just everywhere, it's just everywhere in the cars, and you haven't seen that from a thesis perspective. You can say it's kind of for free, because more than 340 partners at the moment, and it's still growing to other derived applications. I've just seen a home automation company applying for that. So it's very good to see how this community is growing at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. And what you also said around certification, I mean, at the end, we must assure that our cars are not killing people, right? And
absolutely, that's the key.
And software is everywhere by that, so we need to find a dependable platform and partners around it that can elaborate with OEMs such a work model. Right.
Yeah, trust by the consumers can only be built on the reliance on systems which are dependable. And that's a key issue, especially if we move towards higher levels of automation. There will be no acceptance in the public unless we achieve this high level of dependability. And that's where we have a clear focus on.